As if doing something like this alone isn't hard enough. There is so much shit going on right now. It almost feels wrong. It almost feels criminal to talk about sports sometimes. Don't get me wrong. I want to talk about sports lines and try to find winners. I want to talk about how over the last two nights, I'm 2-9 against the spread in the NBA, but I'm 8-2 in college basketball. But there was another fucking school shooting in Michigan yesterday, and we are the only country that this is happening in. I want to talk about how the current top 5 teams right now in college basketball against the spread are the basketball juggernauts of Western Illinois, Georgia Southern, Cornell, Wyoming, and Harvard. But women's rights are being removed, expunged in the second largest state of a country that calls itself united. I want to do my great Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation and create bits to hopefully get some laughs and give my millions upon millions of listeners a reprieve from the shit. But another white terrorist murderer was set free in Wisconsin. And all of us know that if he were a black teenager that crossed state lines with an automatic rifle, there wouldn't have even been a trial. I want to use this as a creative platform where I can create skits and characters to hopefully get some of the aforementioned laughs. But in a country with the indoctrinated saying, quote unquote, and justice for all, is the same country that refuses to investigate a terrorist attack at its capital that happened almost a fucking year ago. I want to dive into the trends of against the spread and over-unders and home and away. I want to dive into the trends and find good spots to go against the public. But meanwhile, Miami is a cesspool for grifting investors who want to ruin the last true beautiful wetland in this country for the name of fucking capitalism. I want to discuss this upcoming weekend's football games and try to find some good leans and some good fades. But now, 40% of the population, and although they are incapable of describing or explaining the difference between the three, are now calling me either a commie, a socialist, or a Marxist because I question the current form of American capitalism, which is literally murdering the planet, slowly stabbing it through its heart for the pursuit of money so old white men can go to outer space, but not really outer space, but kind of outer space. I want to talk about how insane a Tampa Bay New England Super Bowl would be and how it's starting to look like it might actually happen. But here in Denver, the old record of the latest day without snow was November 21st, 1934. It's 73 and sunny in Denver today. It's fucking December. I want to talk about the coaching carousel of college sports and how Lincoln Riley did not lie, but a total gangster move of saying, no, I'm not going to be the LSU head coach. But he took a look at what was going on in the SEC and thought, why in the fuck would I want to go and have to play Mississippi State, home against Texas A&M, at Georgia, and then whoever else is, when I can go and make USC instantly relevant for the next 15 years because Mario Cristobal is out at Oregon. He's not going to be there that much longer. And that conference is starved for a perennial contender. And if he can simply get a good defensive coordinator with the offenses that he runs, and his quarterback decommitted from Oklahoma, he's from California and is now going to USC, he looks around and he's like, wow, here I come, Pac-12. But in the most advanced and democratic, quote-unquote, democratic country on earth, a member of the GOP, a member of Congress, created an anime murder movie about his colleagues. And over the last 18 months, millions upon millions of people have lost their jobs, gone on unemployment, or reached economic ruin, but this old white piece of white trash gets to keep his fucking job. When if you were to do that in any other company in the country, not only would you be fired, you wouldn't get rehired. That would go on your permanent record. But he gets to keep his job? I want to talk about the 11 NBA games and try to get myself out of my aforementioned 2-9 hole. But white troll, white trash Lauren Boebert of Colorado, whose husband exposed himself to a group of underage girls at a bowling alley, and she was arrested for drunken and disorderly conduct and not complying with police, even though she says that she's a Blue Lives Matter, which, by the way, blue lives don't matter. It's not a blue life. It's a fucking blue shirt. Blue Lives Matter is nothing more than a direct racist response to Black Lives Matter. That's all it is. That's all it ever fucking will be. She is xenophobic, transphobic, and is going after another member of Congress from Minnesota, and she gets to keep her job. Walk into any other company and find someone who's not Christian or Muslim or Islam, make fun of their religion, say they're a terrorist because of their religion, and see if you get to keep your fucking job. I want to talk about the Ice Cats, the Florida Panthers. I want to talk about how good the Toronto Maple Leafs are. I want to try to find some good puck line and money line winners and some over-unders in hockey. But a cop fucking murdered someone in a wheelchair in Tucson, Arizona yesterday. The list goes on. And I could go on for days about what I want to talk about versus what I feel like I should be talking about. Because does anybody really want to subscribe to a podcast that only talks about the shit? Like, yes, I want to be your escape. I want to be funny. I want to be creative. I want to try to put a little extra dough in your pocket. Thank you for not listening to any of the NBA picks, obviously. But, like, that's what I want to do. And you want to find a reprieve from the shit. So how do I become a shitty escape when I'm neck high in the shit too? Just like my listeners, all 4 million of you. I just there's so many I want to talk about the chances of Oklahoma State getting into the playoff. I think they'd be a very good matchup for anybody. But at the same time, the stairway to heaven in the shirt I'm wearing, the most beautiful place on earth, they're thinking about closing it because of trash and vandalism. Because the pandemic of selfishness on this planet that is literally on fire and is dying because people vandalized something called the Stairway to Heaven in Hawaii. Like, they're thinking about shutting it down. So, like, who am I pandering to here? And as I said before, this is hard enough to do alone. What I wouldn't give, for if there's any one of my millions upon millions of followers who are interested in doing some kind of a collaboration or maybe even starting a show together, I'm all for it because I got to do this alone. And of course, I want to attract listeners. I want to attract people to the fun, and I want to try to be creative, and I want to try to do all of these things that I started out with, but like, just like your news feed, mine's the same. Mine's the same. A mom walking her infant child in Los Angeles opens the gate to her obviously very nice home, and two guys follow her in and rob her. And that's why, the weekly, the weekly reflection into hell, one of the few segments that I have. That's why, it's not a joke. Nothing is necessarily a ha-ha joke, because there's nothing funny about it. But I try to put a spin on it at least. But at the same time, like, does someone, do you want to listen to that? Do you want to listen to someone rail against everything that's been going on? Do you want to hear someone talk about how it's now illegal for teachers, for school teachers in Texas, to teach that the Ku Klux Klan was morally wrong? Do you want to hear someone say, fuck you, Texas, in every single way, shape, or form, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, fuck you, Texas, where the American Taliban is? Like, or do you want me to just simply go through the lines and try to be funny and do some bits and do some skits and create some characters and try to have some fun with this? Because that's what I came into this for, as a creative platform. It's hard enough doing this alone, and it's like it's it's just really challenging, because I want to talk about all of these things, but as I said before, it almost feels criminal sometimes. It almost feels wrong to talk about sports with everything else going on. But am I so different from everybody else that I want to use sports as my escape? Sure. But do I feel very passionately about the national anthem and all that stuff? Absolutely I do. Do I think Colin Kaepernick is being fucked out of a career while I can name a couple of quarterbacks that are currently playing, while he's got 3 playoff records that will never be touched? Yeah, I want to talk about that stuff, because that's the important stuff. But does that get listeners? Where do I draw that line? How do I draw that line? Is anyone even listening? And yeah, like, do I want to try to do an entire show off of the weird archives of movie lines that I have in my head? I'm a very weird guy when it comes to that. Like, you can say one word and a movie line will just instantly hop in my head. I can watch a movie once and have a good majority of it memorized, or at least quotable. I can quote all the good lines when I see it once. Do I talk about only Murders in the Building? Do I talk about the things that I've seen that I find interesting? Do I talk about how the psychology of viewership has completely changed seemingly overnight, that someone sees a movie that's an hour and 45 minutes long and they say, no, but I'll watch 3 episodes of 45 minutes a pop? It's such a unique thing, simply because I came into this trying to be informative. I want to help people understand sports gambling more. It's becoming more and more common. It's going to become more and more legal, because the quote-unquote moralists who try to keep this illegal are also the same people who are trying to keep a 14-year-old rape victim from having a fucking abortion. Like, you're the same people, and your morality is wrong. Your belief system is wrong. There's nothing written in your old translated by old white men novel that says having an abortion is murder. There's nothing in there. And now are people tuning out because of that? Like, it's just it's so interesting, because there's so many things that I want to do. I want to show my creative side. I want to do a football commentary type of skit where, welcome to the studio. We're going to send it down to John. John, what do you think about here? What do you think about this afternoon's game? Well, here's the thing, Glenn. I think that if the offensive line can block and open holes, then the running backs will be able to run through those holes. And then if the running backs can run through those holes because the offensive line is able to create them, then what that'll do is it will allow the play action game to happen. And what that means is that the quarterback will fake it, and because the O-line has opened those holes, maybe the wide receivers will be open. Like, I want to do something like that completely makes fun of how useless and meaningless everything that every football analyst says is. You watch it, and I had this epiphany 3 weeks ago when me and my wife and my 9-month-old son were just sitting around on a Saturday morning, and I had on College Game Day. And my wife, who is not a football fan, looks over at me and says, "So, do they say anything?" I'm like, "No, they don't." And even she was like, "People listen to this shit? They listen to these quote-unquote experts who can't pick a winner to save their lives? This is what they talk about?" Like, yeah, if the wide receiver is open and the quarterback throws an accurate pass, he has a chance to catch it and run? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course he does. Like, it is the most mindlessly obvious thing. You listen to Troy Aikman? Doesn't Troy Aikman have more interceptions than touchdowns, and isn't he in the Hall of Fame? And those are the experts that we're trying to adhere to, or we're trying to listen to. People who say, hey, if the O-line creates holes, the running backs can run through them. If the defender can make a good tackle, then they won't get any more yards. Like, what the fuck are you... What? And, like, I want to do a skit on that. I want to try to find a way to make that funny, because I do want to have fun. I do want to be creative and be entertaining, because if you're not entertaining, then, like, what am I really doing? And to correct myself, no. Troy Aikman has 165 touchdowns and 141 interceptions with a 61% completion percentage, and yet somehow he is in the Hall of Fame. Point in case, I want to talk about how advanced the football game is. I want to talk about how much of a fucking clown Aaron Rodgers is. I'm wondering if he went to Joe Rogan for his toe. But at the same time, he's the best quarterback that I've ever seen. Put him on New England. I get it. Tom is Tom, and he's got all those championships in a team sport. From an individual position standpoint, what Aaron Rodgers did last year and what he does from not turning over the ball has revolutionized the game. He's not lying in there. You can think he's a clown and he's a joke, which he is, and he's a liar, which he is, but he's still the best quarterback ever. And it's kind of not even close. And so how do I differentiate between what I want to talk about and what I should? It's just, I mean, it's a shit show revelation. It's a shit show revelation. And so, I guess at the end of the day, do I do like one serious show and then one joke show, but I still do the lines? I still go through what I want to do, which is help people analyze the lines, give them information, and make sure that, as a sports fan, you're as informed as I can help you to try to make some money, to try to put a little bit extra money in your pocket. Because as I said earlier, while members of Congress like Paul Gosar and Lauren Boebert, and not to mention her husband, who's just a piece of shit, who exposed himself to, like, they're still employed. They're making direct threats to other people that they work with, to once again, to the millions upon millions of followers and listeners I have. If you want to do a little social study, go into your office, find someone who looks not like you, find someone who does not believe in the things that you do. Find someone who preaches to the invisible person different than you, and threaten them. Directly threaten their lives. And then see if you're still employed at the end of the day. But no, in a quote unquote advanced country, that shit is fucking happening in 2021. In 2021, where we're the most advanced country in the world, but the only country where school shootings happen. And you still got the same old white people saying, "Don't take my guns." Because we're obsessed with fucking guns. Because apparently the only way that a white man feels strong or feels tough in this country is when they're holding a fucking gun. You're a fucking coward. All of you. All of you Second Amendment humpers are fucking cowards. That's all you are. And now what? The same people who, because I question capitalism, I question the current form of it, that CEOs are making astronomically more than the average worker, and now you're going to call me either a commie, a socialist, or a Marxist, but you don't know the difference between those three, because all that you can do is regurgitate what the other old white people are saying on your stupid fucking news channel, your quote-unquote news channel, your whitewashed nationalistic one. You know, Hitler tried to overthrow the German government in 1932, I believe, and no one was ever held accountable. How we are not advanced. We are not evolved. We are not united. We have never been less united. We are broken. Now, do people want to listen to that? And then just have me do an awkward transition into talking about sports lines? I don't know. Or do I have to put on the societal blinders and try to be entertaining to pander to an audience? It's a slippery slope. It's interesting because I want to talk about so many things that are so important. But at the end of the day, is that what people want to listen to? And do they really want to listen to one guy sit here and rant about that shit? Do they really want to fucking do that? Again, if any one of my millions upon millions of listeners and followers would like to join forces and would like to make some kind of a show out of this where we can have some kind of a dialogue where I'm not just speaking, I'm all for it. And I would be totally open to ideas and skits and bits and doing anything creative. I don't know. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of The Social Spreader. I'm not sure what we accomplished here today. Sorry, I'm just not in the mood to talk about sports other than me being 2-9 in the NBA the last two nights, but 8-2 in college basketball. It is so bizarre. And sometimes I really feel like I'm insane for even trying to do this as a profession. Oh, good luck with your fucking bets.